Okay, June 6th Planning Board meeting is now open, and we are being recorded, and we are live on TV. First thing is Form A, Doe Run subdivision.
So conversation with Mr. Gallagher this afternoon, this is the piece that was part of the subdivision. This piece is being retained by the Smith family, and what they would like to do is add this triangular shaped piece back to this lot. This piece is actually part of the proposed drainage lot, but the reconfiguration of the drainage lot is going to look like this plan. And it works according to Mr. Gallagher. So basically, this parcel is all pretty much wetlands. They're only adding a small piece of uplands it can never be built on. So they're adding this to this, and eliminating that lot line. And they're adding this to this, and eliminating this.
Can you show me that map as well? Let's see what you did.
Did I say that right?
Yeah, what it does, it gives us a little bit of...
So they're eliminating this line.
This
They're adding this piece to this piece,
piece, yeah.
and this is what the drainage lot's going to look like.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, could you state your name for the record, please?
Rick Smith, 156 Forest Street. What that does is it gives us a little bit more flexibility in placing the house in there. Grew up on the property out there. It's kind of bony in certain spots and could be a little bit, that just gives us a little bit more flexibility.
Now, which phase?
That would be in phase 2.
Okay, so this, we drive out there, we don't even see any of this yet.
No, none of that stuff.
And did you say he was coming back for the drainage? You said he reconfigured the drainage?
That's the reconfiguration of the drainage basin.
So he's gonna have to come back for minor modification for the drainage? All right. Phase 2 has not, none of Phase 2 has even started or being,
Be an extension of the existing asphalt where it's left off now.
so I would suggest that we're not gonna be able to release any lots on Phase 2 until that basin comes back as a minor
Basically,
modification.
we're transferring the title, and this is something that just clears it up before it gets transferred to John. So any modifications or any changes that are gonna have to be made after the fact that you guys would all obviously have, it's just we're trying to construct all.
Yeah, and that's fine, I just want you to know that on Phase 2, just
Yeah.
so he can come back and make sure he'll have to give us the calculations again, and,
He's aware of that.
okay.
Again, it just delineates the lot lines in the lot so that we don't have to deal with that. As we own it now, we wouldn't be owning it once it's sold.
Russ, questions? Burke? John? Chris, you're abstaining?
I'm going to abstain too, actually.
You're abstaining? You're abstaining? You're abstaining? No, you're abstaining. Yeah, he is, not you. Okay, then. Anything else, Bob?
Pretty straightforward.
Then I recommend, I make a motion that we accept the Form A plan of land, town of Raynham, situated off of Amanda's Circle, prepared for Locust Street Realty Trust, 176 Forest Street, Raynham, Mass., and I assume that 176 Forest Street, Locust Street Realty Trust is you? And plan dated 5/30/19. I believe that's the last revised. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded. Questions, comments? All in favor?
Abstain.
Burke and Chris abstaining.
We can also have a Mylar. I haven't seen a Mylar.
Yeah, it's right here.
Okay. Then I thought
You guys gonna go see Kraft, it's birthday today?
So Russ will sign those.
Make him cook for me on his birthday. Yeah. I got a message from Tom.
Second thing we have on our agenda is 6:15, so we can get rid of these bills while Russ is signing that. He's the only one that has to sign it, and then he will give you your Mylar. And how many we have 3 copies? Anything over 3, you can give them a signed copy if there's any. Rick, did you, that bill there? I haven't signed that one yet. Yeah, you keep, no, you just keep 3 paper copies. Give them the Mylar.
You have enough board now? You got any plenty?
Saturday. Yeah, you take that. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you.
I was gonna, I gotta go. Just a couple of calls with my son. Yeah, I might go next weekend. I was supposed to leave Saturday with him and a few other guys, but, we're going to Brown on Monday. Brett was working with the kids now in town. He's a part-time for the summer, so he knows everything about Brown.
Russ, you want to sign that bill there? Maureen, what is
This weekend. Should be good. So,
bills payable? Bassett Knoll Estates preliminary plan refund or project review?
That's the money that was submitted several years ago, maybe years ago, by Donald Shute. We can't use it for this past one, this was submitted.
Okay, so,
It's an old account we're trying to clean out.
okay.
I think he submitted 5,000 originally.
And that's what was left in that account?
yeah, he's passed away. He passed away.
Oh, did he?
I believe so, yeah.
I'll send a letter, I'll try to get maybe somebody to answer.
Yeah.
These other accounts have enough money in them?
Well, they get a little bit more, but right now they're okay.
Next thing on our agenda at 6:15, 5 minutes, is going to be 366 South Main. So if you have your engineer here, if you want to set up your easel and get ready with your plans, you're going to set, I think, did we move our, yeah, I think we did, huh? Moved our easel over this side.
Preserve continue to?
No, he's coming in.
5 minutes.
You can just finish this afternoon. Just finish these this afternoon, your revisions.
No, they were sent to him earlier this week, but we just got the okay today, so then I stamped them today and made a copy of It's here.
Kirk, well, we have 2 minutes. Would you like to,
Make a motion to waive the reading and approve the minutes of May 16, 2019.
second, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
See that bird? You like that locust? Like that locust map? On the locust map. Make his day.
That is a nice focus.
We thought you'd like that.
I do.
Okay,
Good work.
we are opening up
Introduce our guest.
No, not at all.
the hearing for 366 South Main Street, Children's Development Center Site Plan. State your name for the record.
Sure, I'm Tracy Duart with MDL Land Development. So I'm here on behalf of Carol Meeser for the proposed preschool at 366 South Main Street. Since the time of our last meeting about a month ago, we have been working with Judith Nitch to address the comments in the peer review letter. One of the main things was, since that time, we've done a traffic study. The results were submitted in the beginning of May here. So we used ITE trip generation data, which is what Stephen Ventresca recommended. So for a daycare use, it's anticipated an additional 12 vehicles during the peak hour AM and 12 vehicles peak hour PM. MassDOT did a study actually right in front of this site last June or July. During peak hour, there were 702 vehicles. During peak hour, 5 to 6 o'clock PM. So the anticipated 12 vehicles, it's an additional 1.6%. So we view it as fairly negligible. That's during peak conditions, peak hour. Additionally, we've worked with, we went back and forth with Steve Ventresca on the grading and drainage. The only real change is pushed back. We were kind of right at the end of the driveway with our curb cut. We pushed it back to get that 30-foot. 30-foot negative 1% slope from the roadway right-of-way, which is in the site plan regulations for the leveling area. We have opened up this curb cut wider, sized it for the 100-year storm event. Pea gravel diaphragm for pre-treatment, and then this swale, we've added a check dam to slow down the water, to increase water quality before the forebay, so we get that 44% pre-treatment before it goes to the infiltration basin.
Did you add any screening on the,
We have a much more enhanced landscaping plan as well, that's right. That has been stamped by a landscape architect.
on which page is that?
Right now, L1-0, it's right after the detail sheets. Additional screening along both property lines and around the basin.
So everything that doesn't say existing you're putting in,
Yes,
which is about 40, 50 trees or bushes?
yeah. Much more than we originally proposed, yeah.
Yeah, there's a plant list up here.
Yeah, there should be a summary table on that sheet.
The other, last time you were in, I had a question about draining, your pitching the entire parking area to that one. Have you, did any looking into that?
We've gone back and forth, yeah. In order to get that 44% pretreatment, the only way to do that without adding a water quality structure, which we didn't have room elevation-wise to do, was to do a water quality swale before the forebay. So I had to get as much length in that channel before it made it to the basin in order to get the time of concentration in the swale to get the water quality treatment.
So you didn't have that much room from what, the water table?
Yeah, water table was very high at the site. That's why we're not proposing catch basins, and we didn't have that elevation to get it into a grate, into an outlet pipe, and then get it into a basin and still be above seasonal high groundwater.
So the way you designed it with all your flow heading towards the entering and exits, you're gonna stamp this plan in the wintertime, we're not gonna have any accidents?
There's a good O&M for maintaining that area, and we analyzed that curb opening and all storm events to look at the ponding, and it's 0.1 feet in the
there's a
100-year
good-
storm,
so
so there's no
operate-
real ponding in the
So what is
parking
the
area.
maintenance? You said there's a good,
It's just that area be maintained and shoveled, not allowed snow to be plowed up against that curb inlet. So that has been added to the O&M, yeah.
where is that on the plan?
Oh, the O&M is in the drainage report?
It's in the drainage report?
That's where the operation and maintenance schedule and plan is.
So, because I still have a concern, obviously, it's the only in and out of the property, and we're running all of the water to that entrance. And if the applicant, if that's not somewhere, that's in this, should be in the certificate of action, should be somewhere on the front of the plan. To me, that's one of the most important parts of this entrance, is if that's not maintained properly, and it freezes, and somebody comes sliding in, it's, I see it as a problem. I don't know if any of the other members do. Chris, I know last time we were talking about,
So you're coming out of this building at a slab, and then you're gonna have sidewalks around it?
Yes.
And they're gonna
front.
drop, so when you walk out the slab, there's gonna be no drop coming out of the door? Or- You know what I mean?
There's no
Like, in
drop
other words,
until you
you're
hit
only
the
going down
curb.
six inches from here to here, which would account for your curbing and everything else. But I see what Dan's saying. We mentioned that before, to see if you could try to regrade, so you'd end up bringing a swale.
It was looked in great detail, but in order to have another low point, the swales get shorter, and we can't get that water quality treatment in. And I've tried
again, that's
pushing
all,
back with.
I understand what you're saying, you can't get that water quality in. I'm more concerned about the safety versus water quality.
Well, Stephen Tresca would not push back on the 44% pretreatment, even though it's an infiltration rate of 2.41 inches an hour, which 44% pretreatment is required for greater than. So I tried saying that in the stormwater standards, our handbook, you're not required to do 44% pretreatment unless you're in the greater than. But he asked that we still try to get the 44, so we
Okay,
worked
so
very
he's our-
hard.
He's our review engineer, and we do listen
Yep.
greatly to that, and I still, and I'm gonna leave it up to the rest of the board, I still have a problem with that, all that water heading in that direction
Yep.
towards the only one in and out of this piece of property.
I'm just-
The other thing, are you asking for a waiver on the 40-foot distance from the property line to the opening?
Yes, that was added.
So you're adding a waiver, so we have to grant you a waiver on the distance of 40 feet. We just have to, I don't know, any help from
What was the 40 feet, Tim?
the entrance from the property line to the opening? It has to be minimum of 40 feet.
And how much is it right now?
I don't know, I just saw in the report that they
Yeah, it's 20, I can get you the.
I know, it
exact
looks,
number.
That looks like it's at least 40. 1 inch is
It's
probably
21
like 2
feet
inches.
to the drive aisle. We have more than 40 to the parking stalls, but to the drive aisle, it's 21 feet.
21 feet.
Russ, Burke, comments, concerns, or you have same concerns I have, you don't have the concerns I
You got
have?
the concerns you have and then some. Do we have the laser somewhere?
Maureen Laser? I was really surprised on the traffic count, 700 and something cars.
Yeah, that was a MassDOT study that was actually right in front of the site,
Yeah, they were at least that.
5 to 6 p.m., and that was July 2018.
Yeah, no, just,
I mean, I actually went by there and saw where the entrance was staked out, and it's actually the best spot it could be.
oh, I'm sure it is, I don't have,
Start with the 2 curves, it's dead center of the.
I don't have a problem with that waiver, we've done it in the past, I have a problem with shedding all the water to the only,
Yeah, I don't see how you couldn't have broken it up. I mean, it's just-
the only in and out that we have small children going here, generally, if 6:30 in the morning, mothers who, I don't know how many fathers drop their kids off, but gonna be pulling in here early morning, wintertime, our winters don't get any easier, this thing's frozen, and she's not gonna go, if they're gonna plow it, and she's open at 6:30 in the morning, well, they're gonna have to be there at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning to plow it. How is that person gonna know, okay, don't block this, because if you do, we're gonna have backup water and ice right here, the only entrance coming into the property. That concerns me. There's gotta be a sign, there's gotta be something. I mean, don't you think that's critical? That's a critical spot or a critical concern of this
It is a
entire
critical
site?
spot. That's why we were asked to analyze the opening to make sure it could handle the 100-year storm and then some. I'm sure Carol's amenable to putting signs up that the plows aren't to
Yes,
store snow in
Bob.
front of it.
You want to go first?
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brooke, I didn't see it.
So your concern is, I just want to offer an idea, I'm not sure if it's engineering possible. But if the concern is to direct the water away from the immediate opening of the entrance, is there a way to collect the water around this arc curve here and bring the water off the parking lot into a swale that kind of wraps around? That way you catch most of the water in this corner, and maybe you still leave this outlet here, this outlet structure, if you will, to pick up any additional water, but most of the water will exit the parking lot further away from the entrance where you have less of a chance.
That's exactly what I suggested, and exactly when I went over with Brian when he was in here last time. And I think it could easily be done. I mean, you could lift the building up 6 inches or so. I mean, right now, I'm looking at the building, and your parking lot grade's 99, your slab elevation's 99.5. So you're telling me you could have a sidewalk that's pitched plus 6 inches?
You have to be
So
the
you-
same as a sidewalk for handicap accessibility, you have to be the same as, with a half-inch pitch.
I myself would even be fine with eliminating berm on that entire side. Let the whole thing shed off.
You're trying to collect the water in the swale, though, without the berm, it's going to be difficult to do.
Yeah, that's what you just showed, Bob, is exactly what I suggested to Brian. And I think with a little bit of grade, it's easily doable. I don't,
Well, I brought it up last time, just so you can, and I asked you to look into it and try to come up with a better way, and it's,
I can tell you that we did look into it. We looked into splitting the site in half. We had originally moved down a little bit to get a swale on the top half. It was just way too close to the other property line. We've really tried to minimize the amount of fill on this site. To make it
well, and
feasible.
again, all of that's fine, it's just, I think, like Bob said, you have to do something with that. We have, how wide is that opening for that little swale?
It's 10-foot opening.
So that's a 10-foot opening, so again, if
that's what I asked.
if something clogs up,
Yeah. Just
gets frozen,
So you break it up in half.
where is the slush and ice and
It's easy to do.
snow, and where's it gonna go if that is blocked?
Well, and my question was going to be, my memory is that's where the snow is going anyway.
There's no storage here and here. If it's stored here, it'll melt into the swale or down to the swale that way.
So they're gonna push the snow to where the swale area is, which is in that same location of our opening, 10-foot opening. So again, like I said, somebody's out there, I've had plows for years, guys go out there, they're plowing 4 o'clock in the morning, they just got through having their dried up hot dog that, they're not gonna, you have to do something with that. I'm just,
Well, let me I'm not at all convinced that there's enough parking here. So I might be wanting some parking added along in here too. What, I know we haven't gotten into parking, but how do other people feel?
well, we touched on it, I think, last time, and I had asked the question about, I know I've driven by quite a few times since different times of the day, and along South Street, if there's 10 cars there at any given time, it's probably it. The question that I had last time was when we have functions, parties, Christmas parties, but I was told that this is daycare and not preschool, but it does say preschool. So do,
Because she does see it as like a learning program, but it's not just a school preschool where they're gonna have graduations on site and that kind of stuff. And she
Right.
did say if they did anything, she would get an off-site hall or something.
okay, so that was, because I think I mentioned last time, I went to my 4-year-old grandson's play that I could not believe. If I didn't go, I probably would have been embarrassed I didn't go, but every other grandparent was there, and they were parked all the way down. So it's a big thing, and I just want to, again, that's going to be another thing that would have to go into the certificate of action, that we would have to have an area for,
Up in the street.
well, and again, parking on the street would wind up happening, but yes, it's illegal, but how do you tell somebody who's going, where else are they going to park if they have no other place to park? They're going to park in the street. And with the amount of cars that are traveling here.
It'd be nice if everyone went by the law, but
Right. Well, we wouldn't have accidents if everybody.
Bob, the zoning board found that this was a preschool and not a daycare.
Yeah, it's considered educational use.
What happens if a year later, it's decided that it's a daycare and not a educational use?
It's a done deal. They have approval from the zoning board. It can't be reversed. It's been approved by the zoning board as that particular use, which was, Carol actually went to the zoning board to contest my letter because I viewed it as a business, and they agreed with her that it's a daycare. So we're not here to discuss that anymore. We're just here to discuss the merits of the site plan in front of us.
Yeah, and I reviewed all that, I went through it all, and there was a list of neighbors there was a letter signed by a whole slew of neighbors not opposing it, that were in favor. So, that part of it, I agree, we're off of the legal side of it, I guess.
I think Burke's point was if you find out a year down the road it's not being used as an educational for what it was proposed, then do you find it non-conforming?
Well, reducing the parking is a special permit. As a condition in our special permit, we can put a condition in there that if, at any time, that this, I wouldn't even say changes, if at any time the board feels that the parking is inadequate, that we would require them to come back in front of us and, as it has to be in the special permit approval process. And if we put it in there, then they'll have to stick to it.
Well, like we have done with Johnson & Johnson and some others, we've only required a certain amount of parking right now, but we've required proof that they can add parking if needed. They got a place to put it,
Correct.
and that's what I'm concerned with here.
So, we have concerns about the parking, how many parking spaces, the drainage. Other than that, the screening is, looks more than sufficient. You've added more screening on the, I'm assuming that's what, the north or east sides? Reviewing, let's go to Nitch's letter. I heard you make a comment earlier that you just got the final Nitch's letter today. Was there anything in here that you had to make changes to your plan, or?
No, so he had, I emailed him Monday asking for comments, and he got back to me Monday night with just 3 little things to add the light pole height, and that was when he talked about, again, we weren't meeting the 44% pretreatment that I didn't feel was required. So we had revised the plans Tuesday, sent him drafts, and then today we got the okay on, so there's no more changes.
Well, I saw that light pole height was in his original review.
It was added to the lighting plan, and we provided lighting specs he asked for on the layout sheet.
Yeah, I know, I printed out 78 pieces of paper last time. When you sent that forward, I didn't realize there was every piece of information on, I have no clue what it all means, because it was on so many different pieces of paper.
Yeah,
Vehicle trip generations, there was all that, then there was all the specs on the lighting, and
We sent our lighting consultant the review comments.
there was a
and
lot.
Instead of updating the plans, he just sent the specs, so that's what I
Okay.
had to send.
So that was what you did, and then, other than that, Nitch is basically, besides the waivers, I saw those are on the front of your plan. The landscaping. So, John, questions, comments? I'm going to open it up to the public. Does anybody have could you come up to the podium and please state your name for the record?
My name is Catherine Bryant, and I live at 709 South Main Street. And as long as this has to be on the specifics.
Can you speak up a little bit? We got to
Okay.
make sure.
I understand this is, from what you just said, this is on the specifics of the plan?
Correct.
Okay. So, she is asking for 17 parking spaces. If you go down to the post office, where the Raynham Mart is, those are 18 parking spaces. So you're putting a parking lot that size on a residential lot that will have a building that is 4,600
We
square
want the
feet.
parking to be increased from 17
Okay,
even, so
but-
it may even be larger. And that's not, this may be residential, but it was granted a variance, so that's not our concern at this point. Our concern is to make sure that,
Okay, but you would have to my point to you is, you would have to significantly increase the parking, because she is licensed up to 52 students.
okay, she's licensed.
It's up to 52 students. If she's building a building that size, she will increase her enrollment. This is a state highway. Parking is illegal on a state highway.
Correct.
The parking
And we-
is
and
a
we
huge
understand that,
issue.
But they sized the building. If she's licensed for that,
Mhm.
I would be really shocked if they did not have the amount of students that she's licensed for,
Mhm.
that this would be figured out, where she did in the traffic study on how many vehicles coming and going they've done that study. Can you answer, I know you said it a little while ago,
How
but,
many cars are coming?
yeah.
So the Institute of Transportation Engineers published a manual, and based on your use and the occupancy and the use, it tells you your peak load or peak hourly rate of vehicles that are going to be.
Now, how do you base that on the number of kids that potentially could be in here?
Yeah, well, the number that we used, the number that it was licensed for to size it,
Okay.
and then the use code for daycare was the closest code for this facility.
Okay, so, again, I understand what you're saying about the 52 students, but I think that information was supplied. So with parking, that's a special permit for reduction in parking? Do you have a note on here? How many parking spots are you, for that size square footage building?
How many would be required?
Yeah.
29.
So 29, normally on a building of that size, there would be 29 spaces, that would be.
But that lot cannot accommodate 29.
Well, again, I don't know if the lot can accommodate 29 or not, that's not.
Because she's licensed through the Department of Early Education and Care. And those are programs that provide care and early education for young children in a community-based setting outside the home. So this is not a school. And this changes the character of South Main Street. Because, no, you are putting a commercial entity in a residential
Please
area.
don't point, and
Okay,
you're
all right.
you're getting.
I'm emphasizing it. I'm not emphasizing it to you.
I understand that, but
Yes.
you're
Excuse me,
getting upset with this board
I
where
apologize
it is
to you for
not
that.
up to us to even look at, we're putting a business here. We have a square box that we work out of, and our rules and regs is the safety
I
for people
realize
to
that.
get to this building, in and out, safe.
But if this was portrayed to the appeals board as
I don't even want to go there. Hockey's on tonight.
Yes.
Hockey's on tonight, and
The
we don't have to.
building inspector agreed with you.
Mhm.
He was overruled.
Mhm.
You had 20 days to go to Superior Court.
Excuse me, sir. These things are not widely published. Lots of people do not read the Taunton Gazette. You know,
I'm just telling you what the law is.
okay, thank
If
you.
you missed it, you missed it, but
Mhm.
it's final. They've decided this is a school.
Okay.
Whether we
Then-
like it or not,
All right, then I would
it's
like
not,
the board to address the safety issues here, and they're very serious safety issues, because that is located on a blind curve.
And that's what we are doing. That's our, one of our main objectives is to make sure that people going to this piece of property can enter and exit safely. And again, I think I
Because
mentioned.
they cannot be parked in the road, because you can't see them as you come down.
They're not, I don't see, right, exactly, they can't be parked in the road. There's no parking on South Main Street.
Exactly,
It's not allowed.
yes. Okay,
We all agree.
thank you.
All right? Anybody else have something, comments, questions? Okay, so, Bert, how do we get to a point where special permit, they're asking for a reduction to 17 spaces? How do we get to, I don't want to put in 25 spaces if we don't need 25 spaces, because, again, it is a residential area.
Yep. Well, I'm far from an expert on daycare and preschools. They're going to have 10 employees. 19 spaces you want?
17.
17. So 10 employees, so there's 7 spaces left. Now, if people just drive up the door and push the kid out and drive away, that's fine. But I think a lot of people pull in, get out of the car, take the child by the hand, talk to somebody at the school as to what's going on that day or whatever. And I'm just not sure that 7 spaces for 52 students' parents is enough, 53, I think it was.
Excuse me, we keep saying 17. Mrs. Letter says that they're proposing 18. Just to clear up numbers, so we're talking the same numbers.
I think that's a typo.
Yeah, I think they have
It's a typo?
in their letter.
Okay.
And if I
It's
can
been on,
address-
it's been on since.
Yeah, there's a,
Since the initial review.
We went through
there's
Mrs. Letter,
an
and that's
even
what
amount.
it
I mean,
becomes.
17, you got one handicap.
Okay, it's not a big
So-
deal, I just wanted a
Oh,
clarification, that's all.
Out of space.
No, you got handicap space.
And Carol has kept very good track. She has said at the last meeting and told me as well that she's never counted more than 4, and I think somebody else came and spoke up, a parent, 4 vehicles during any 15-minute period, because they don't stay long, though, which actually goes hand in hand with the traffic study that we saw, 12 vehicles in a peak hour. So 10 employees max at any time, and 4 has been the max observed drop-offs at any one time.
Yes, you can come up to the podium, please.
I'm Carol Meeser. You want my work number? You want my home address, right?
Yes.
74 Lakeview Drive.
Okay.
I talked about this before. Not everybody drops off at the same time. And I'm assuming all the studies, if you guys have checked this out, because there's been people sitting there looking at the parking spot. You can see that they've only 4 parents are come there. I have 7 families that have 2 kids and 3 kids that come to my program, so they don't need to have 3 vehicles for each child. Only 1 parent drops off, and I have many fathers that drop off. So when you said that, I didn't know if you were going to say that just the moms drop off. I have and I have wonderful fathers.
Early morning mothers with kids strapped in the back seat, and I say, how do they do it?
I got wonderful families.
I don't see many
So,
fathers.
when I'm licensed for 51, and 51 children do not come every single day. All right, and I have, like, again, 7 families have 2 children. You start adding up that figures. Most people they drop off. My earliest drop off is 6:30, and most people are usually dropped off by 6:30. Maybe if you're running behind because they didn't get up on time, they're there because they have to be to work.
Okay.
And the same thing in the afternoon.
Okay,
so
so
it's
that's your scenario.
And somebody has watched, so I know somebody
No, that's
here
fine.
has been watching
As
it.
of today,
Yeah.
and how long have you been in business?
At that location, 10
Yeah.
years. It's been open for 23 years.
So it's been open for 23 years. Someday you're going to want to sell this.
No, it's going to be here. It's going to be something else that my daughter will take over.
Okay, so now your
educational
daughter
program.
takes over. We have to make sure that we have adequate parking for the 52 students that you have. You may have 52 single-parent students. You may not have cars that have 3 kids in them. You may not have cars that have 2 kids in them. So you're looking at it as that, and we're looking at it as we have to make sure that we
Oh, I
have.
do understand that.
We have to make sure that we have the adequate amount of cars. And like Mr. Fountain said, you have 10 employees and you don't have 52 students. So how many students do you have? 30-something, I think, last time you said?
I didn't look at my numbers before I came here. I
Okay,
apologize.
so if we increase to 52, now our employee parking is going to increase, so say we have another 2 employees, now we're up to 10 or 12. And so we're not just looking at what's happening today because we can't issue a permit for that. We're looking at the square footage of the building, the parking for this building for those, that number of children.
The experts who publish the manual say that there should be more spaces.
Well, I think that I don't know what is the right way, because this is my first rodeo, but the gentleman that I paid a lot of money for, who you guys hire, said that it was all good. He looked at it for 2 months. His 75-page report came in, and he was okay with that. So you guys picked him. The gentleman the engineer that looks at the stuff, and he thought that was okay.
Oh, you're saying our engineer?
The engineer that you guys, I pay for, you hire him.
Yep, the town's review engineer.
Yeah. You know, I thought he was okay with it. There's been many people watching my center, sitting there watching, sitting in cars. I have to take pictures because I'm cautious of who's sitting in the parking lot, because I have children. So I make sure that I know who they
I have a red
are.
truck, and I haven't been, I drove by a few times.
No, these people who actually sat
I'm sure you've had a
and
lot of
checking,
people sitting there.
and checking
now.
numbers.
Well, he's actually.
So they know that you know that there's never been more than
Well, I
4
was
cars
gonna
there.
just pull out his
Yeah, he
review.
didn't agree with your parking. He just,
Pardon me?
he simply stated that there's 10 employees, and he's put 18 parking spots. And he put that you should provide, you know,
I have 10
you should
employees, but
provide
they're not all
certain
there at the
volumes
same
to
time.
justify what you have. And I don't know if anything's been provided,
Yeah, so,
based on his June 6th letter, which is today.
If you
He
had
didn't
the
agree to
full
it.
Hold on.
Okay.
If you had the full complement of students, how many, is there a certain number of employees that have to be there for a certain number of
8.
students?
There are 51 children, I have to have 8 employees there.
Okay.
So the extra 2 is, you asked me how many employees I had, I said 10, I only need 8.
Well, and interesting to me, you said that although you have 10, you don't have 10 at the same time.
Correct.
and again, like Mr. Gallagher said, our engineer, review engineer, is basing his comments on information that was provided by your engineer, which is all he can do.
Because the question they ask is how many employees I had.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't ask, how often are they there? I answered the question. And I've talked to him about that, and he says, you have to write down how many employees you have. So we did. We did what we were asked. The question was, how many employees do you have? I only have to have 8. If
Okay,
50
so you're required to have 29 spaces. You're asking for a special permit to reduce it down to 17 with 1 handicap, which makes it 18. So that's where we're at. Anything else?
No, I think that was it. I just wanted to let you know that we don't have all that many children there at the same time, because some people
Okay.
just come half days, you know, just in the morning, and then I don't have all those employees. I just wanted to make sure, and I think I talked about that last time, too.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
So, we can keep going back and forth on statistics and what they have and what they don't have. Do you have, first of all, this here has to get changed. You have to, I think like Mr. Iafredi said, I don't know, I wasn't redesigning the plan for you last time because that's not my job. And I'm not qualified to it. I just know that you're gonna have ice build up at this main entrance when they plow all of this. You're asking for a waiver for us to allow you not to have any parking aisles. So that means all the snow is gonna go to the longest way. So they're gonna get up here and they're gonna plow and they're gonna push here. They're gonna block this, it's gonna freeze, and we're gonna have a problem.
It's a very simple fix. I mean, you just gotta put a crown in the parking lot, and have half of it go one way, half go the other. It's simple.
Well, I thought that's what we
It's a
said,
6-inch grade change.
but she said she did a lot of work on it, and I'm just,
No,
It
you
was-
can still do a swale,
I'm just not
I
sure.
was just working with the
I don't agree
existing
with that.
trees, and I had to provide the 10-foot access around everything so that the drainage system can get maintained, and work against the elevations. It was tough to get it to
Sure, it was
work.
tough, but it doesn't work. You got it to work in your numbers. But unless you wanna, I don't think anybody's gonna, I know you engineers stamped the plan, but when somebody gets hit because they slid in, nobody's gonna come to their rescue.
Could we talk about the elevations a little bit?
Sure.
I'd just like it explained to me again as to where we are from one end of the parking lot to the other and where things are going to sheet. pick a plan and talk to me.
No, so the high point of the parking lot.
What sheet number is that? You can't see that from here.
The grading plan is sheet 6. This is the high corner of the site right here. 1% slope here, 1% slope from the road back there. We have the 30-foot leveling area.
Chris, you're talking about putting a crown?
Yeah, so I looked at doing that and having another low point here,
Uh-huh.
as well as here. When you do that, because you're not as high, this low point, by the time I got back into the basin, then I didn't have the separation of groundwater.
Is the 44%,
I'll look at it from
the separation of the 44%, whatever,
Pre-treatment?
pre-treatment, is that a must, or is that something we can waive?
That's a waive, we can waive it.
It's, shouldn't be required for soils with a 2.4-inch infiltration rate, which is what it was modeled for.
Okay.
So that's why originally we just had the sediment forebay without this additional check dam.
Okay. Well, if we told you we'd give you a waiver on that, how much flexibility will that give you to take care of some of the issues we're talking about?
We're talking inches here. We're talking changing it by like 6 inches or something.
Yeah, but
Your
this,
site contractor, if his level's
6 inches
not
sometimes tough when you're, you only
It's-
have
it's
a couple
pretty
feet
jump.
between the
You know, it's the
building
the whole-
elevation and the basin.
The drainage calcs, you can't get too crazy on them, and, you know, you're doing a drainage basin and you're figuring out the top of your riprap to 100th when it's 9-inch stone. I mean, it's, common sense has to prevail on some of this stuff, but I mean, you got everything to the 100th, guy's not gonna build it to the 100th, you know, but you can get it that way, you can grade it that way, there's no question. Like
I would
you tell
suggest
them
that
at
you,
30 feet,
I would
can't
suggest
drop 7
that
inches.
you look at that and you make whatever corrections that you can, and if you need a waiver, you provide the reason for needing the waiver. I know it's not always, as easy as looking at it and saying, well, it's only 6 inches.
No, that's fine, and like I said, the
You know-
44% pretreatment was what was really tough, and that's why we went back and forth with Stephen Trusker on it, because we didn't believe it should have been required anyways.
Okay. And again, he is our review
No,
engineer.
I get- and
We
that's-
start
but
with
that's why
him, just
we-
like I'm sure you do with other towns. You
But
start
that's
with
why we
your
worked
engineer.
hard to get that,
Yeah.
was to
And
satisfy him.
you satisfied him, but you avoided to satisfy my main concern of having the freezing at the main entrance.
Yeah, I mean, it was pushed back about 20 feet from where it originally was. That way we didn't have
It
to
was
ask.
pushed back from the street.
From the street, yeah.
It's still in the main entrance.
24 feet seem adequate for that entrance? And
Our bylaw says 24. And that's one of those items that we're going to be reviewing because fire chief wants 28. Commercial properties, we've asked them to go to 28.
what are we gonna do here? 24 is okay?
I didn't see a problem with
We
the
did
20,
do a fire truck turning analysis.
with the 24.
With this, yeah, that's shown actually on the layout plan. And
Again, they're
Brian
not having-
Lasavita's the one that gave us the dimensions.
They're not having any aisles, they're asking for a waiver for plantings and center aisles in the parking because they don't have the room. So I think we need to look at that, and we need to look at, can you provide, if needed, additional parking down the road? Where can you put it? Plot out an area, how many parking spaces you can get, and I think it would be under our special permit. It would be up to us to make it as part of the special permit, that if at any time we feel that the parking is inadequate, whether it be this owner or the next owner or anybody, the daughter, we don't want to limit the site. The site was, they got a variance, this is what they're doing. You know, zoning enforcement officer doesn't need to be revisiting this after it's approved. So, I think you need to find some additional spot that you can add some parking spaces if needed. And I know you made a comment about you had a hard time working with existing trees, working with the size of the building, working with the wetlands. Well, all of those things, if the building has to get smaller, if existing trees have to go, those are the things that you have to bring back to us, and we'll pick what's more important. You know, if that building, that size building doesn't fit everything that you need, well, do you have to make it smaller? That's, you know, that's not up to us to make that determination.
Just a quick question for Bob. When you come out of the slab elevation building, there's no reveal till you get to your curb.
Tolerance is half inch.
That's it?
Yeah. Then you have a 1 inch per foot pitch. So if
It's all handicap accessible.
If they're 8 feet away from the parking lot, you can have 8 inches of pitch, 1 inch per foot.
Well, this slab's 99.5, and they have like grade around the building higher than 99. They have the contour around the building, shows that everything's higher than 99 around the building. When you'd come out of the building, you'd have your inch, you'd have your slope for your sidewalk, and then you'd have your 6-inch reveal. So now you're under 99 right there, but they're showing you're above it. So I mean,
Yeah, well, the top
it's
of the
almost
curb-
like the building should be lifted up 6 inches. Just the
Yeah.
grades don't match what's actually gonna
It's
happen.
a 2% slope, 1.5 to 2% slope from when you walk out of the building to the edge of the sidewalk. That's the ADA sidewalk slope. And then a 6-inch drop to the bottom
Yeah,
of the
I
curb.
understand that.
The 99 contour is at the top of curb, so that's the same elevation as the
They're
building.
just showing it 50 feet away from the building.
It's fairly flat.
And it's showing it away from the building all the way around.
It goes up to 99.5,
Yeah,
which is the.
I mean, I do
bottom.
this for a living, so I understand this stuff, you know, probably not that much, but it just doesn't, it seems like you might want to lift your building up a little bit, but
I have a question on the parking.
Yep.
Why don't we just ask them to put the additional parking in now? I mean, 3 generations from now, the business is someone else is running the business. How do we know that's the time? How does someone know that's the time when we should have the additional parking? Who's going to monitor that? You or your people who succeed you going to go out and check every day to see if the additional parking is needed today? Put it now.
Well, again, I think
Yeah, maybe a couple of trees got to come down.
we've
but-
done, you know, like Burke said, over to Johnson & Johnson, you know, we've given them a reduction of parking, 50 spaces, because they just don't need it. But if they add another building, which they own some more land, and they have the room to add spaces.
We gave the okay for 50 less out of how many? How many hundreds?
Oh.
Yeah, out of thousands of parking places. We're talking 17 parking places here. I mean, we're talking almost half of what the requirement is for it. Put it in now. We don't have to worry about it, and we'll never have to address it. No, and none of the people who come after us will have to address it.
with J&J, we actually had them show that they could get.
And if that use changes, they have to go to you first.
Say that again, please.
If the use of the building changes, right, they would have to go to you first.
Well, the use can't change. It can only, unless it's converted to residential, it going to be
Right, 'cause it's got
educational,
variance for that one
residential.
use.
It's residential A, well, variance for one use, and...
Well,
you have
educational
to-
use.
You have to, you're pretty limited in residential A, what you can do.
And you could make it a condition that any change of occupancy or change of ownership, then you could review the parking again, but that's just adding more work down the road.
That's my point.
And I think, in fairness to the applicant, because of the situation and the sensitivity of the location, they're trying to do a low-impact development here. That's why they're trying to reduce the parking and not create a parking lot that, doesn't fit in the residential, area.
Yeah, I suppose there's something to say to that as well.
And that's, and again, if we don't need 29 spaces,
Well, I think I got started on the parking, and I guess I'm giving you an impossible, find some room for more parking at the same time you find some more room for drainage, and you can't do both. So, if other people agree with that, and is the drainage the more important, so we don't have an ice sheet at the entranceway.
like I said earlier, we can, part of the special permit, we can make a condition that additional parking would be required if there's any on-street, on South Main Street parking. We do need to put up some signs. I think we don't want it to look like absurd neither, but I think my biggest concern is that clogging and freezing at the entrance.
I think so, too.
Even though it got 20 feet back, it's 20 feet. When it's frozen, it's frozen.
Yep.
That's, size of the parking, 17 spaces. If she says that's what she has, she's putting hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars into this, and I'm sure she's not looking to limit her use for the piece of property, so I don't think she's going to shortchange herself at this point.
Nice man person, like it.
So, yes,
You could ask them to show where they have snow storage to the south side of the parking lot. You could probably show 5 or 6 gravel parking spaces there, whether you have them for future or now. And then you can mandate that any future snow removal will be removed from site and not stored on site. Then they could probably bring their parking, future parking up to 22 or 23 spaces.
And you're a little close to the 20.
I want, and if that could be done, I would be in favor.
Yeah, that sounds a good idea.
If you can do that, and just have some type of,
Reasonable?
So you want it to show as for future, or you want it as
Future.
permanent growth for
Future.
future? If that's, as long as you're amenable, because it's closer to the road. Yeah.
yeah, and again, that's,
For future.
It's gonna be lower.
Storage area.
right where,
This one is on-
right on the bottom there.
Because it was done along the front.
So there's snow storage right now shown over here, and then on either side of this existing tree.
We're talking about the one.
Lower.
Okay.
I think the
You're talking
chairman-
about showing just parking here? Oh, over here, right?
No, we're looking at parking there, not at, parking down in that space. Yeah, I don't think,
We're looking at showing that you can get it. Showing that you can accommodate it.
That's where you're looking at the drainage to go.
yes.
Yeah, look at I don't see any problem with the drainage, because I don't see how you're gonna be lower than farther up, you're gonna have less of a swell, so you're actually gonna be higher, coming from this spot that Bob indicated, and blending into your swale. But look at it and come back. I know it can easily be done. Maybe Brian just overlooked when I told him about it. Maybe it just went in one ear and out the other, but I think it can be done. Well, I know it can be.
All right, any other comments, so the next time they come back, we can look at it and be satisfied with it? All of the surrounding shrubbery, trees, everything else you've satisfied, I think, with Nich's review. What you do does not have to go back in front of Nitch because it's going to be something that the board is asking you for. And if you have to obviously reduce your drainage area, then that would have to be reviewed. But we're not looking to reduce drainage area. All your swale that you're swaling.
Just the conveyance to it and the treatment of
Exactly.
that conveyance, yeah.
Yes.
Can we just summarize so the applicant goes away with some kind of direction? Because I don't think we were talking about two small changes in this plan. So if we changed the snow storage area, which is in that area, and we showed gravel parking, how many spaces, how many spaces you can get? 4, 5, 6 spaces. And then if we took this radius and we added another outfall area that would maybe have a riprap area similar to this one, but to catch most of the water in the parking lot and take it away back into the swale from there. So those are basically the biggest changes we're asking for.
Right.
Yes.
And if you're showing snow storage on the front of that property, I would like that removed. I don't want to see snow storage from that.
Well, you could put it up on the right side.
No one's going to plow this parking lot to the front. They're going to come in and they're going to push everything away, and it's going to end up in this area.
Right, but if she's showing it on the plan, then it's allowed. If we approve the plan with showing snow storage against South Main Street, again, you know,
Snow storage in this area may inhibit the
in and out.
site view.
Right, so she mentioned that that's where snow storage was being placed, so
That's what we're showing you.
I just don't want it to show on the plan because
While they're here, do you want to digest the elevation plan so that you're comfortable with the building? I don't think you've done that before.
I think it's a beautiful building.
Oh, so you've seen it
Oh, yeah, yeah, we saw it last time.
last meeting?
It's,
Well,
Yeah.
Chris mentioned the
We-
elevation, he thinks the building needs to be up a little higher.
well, no, Bob's talking about the facade, how the building looks.
No, not looking building.
Yeah, we all took a big plan home with us.
But
I'd look at that, 'cause you might wanna consider raising the building
Your next one after two is 6.
You're coming out at
Because of
98.5.
July 4th.
That's your slope. Then you got your 6-inch.
If we do 2 and we can't make it, we can ask for a
The 99
continuance.
around the building.
Okay.
So if it's high, it doesn't make sense.
So, I'm sorry, what was that,
Bert
Bert?
to come back in 2 weeks, isn't sure she'll be ready, but with July 4th, it'll be 6 weeks before we're here again. So she'd like it 2 weeks and a continuance if necessary. Time to act, June 30th.
So 2 weeks is...
Our next meeting is June 20th.
You will need to give if you're not ready to go, you're gonna need to give us an extension or we're gonna have to deny it.
It's not going for review, so hopefully you can, I think that's gonna help you
Okay, how many days prior to the hearing do you need it?
just, you can have it that day. Once,
That day,
Okay.
we're gonna see what the changes are.
Once
If you do
we look
right,
at it.
fine.
That's fine. Might be Brian here because I have another meeting, but somebody can make it.
so we're gonna continue this until 6:15 on June 20th. All right? Why don't you, you gave us all a beautiful set of plans, why don't you take these back? Because these are not gonna be, you're making changes to these, so Maureen, do you need one copy? So, I would say take the rest of them back instead of wasting,
Come in here?
Okay. Raynham Preserve East Subdivision. Bassett Knoll Estates, Phase 3 Bond Estimate.
Oh, that's not ready. The bond estimate.
Okay. Raynham Preserve East.
Bugging out for this one. Are they even here?
Yeah, here he is. Chris, the last one is continued also.
Yeah, yeah.
So, step up, you have information, you can put it on your agenda, your aisle easel over there. And before you get started, sir, you look like you're a Doe Run person. That was on at 6:05, and that's done. That was on our agenda at 6:05. Oh, you're here for the drainage stuff? Okay, well, we don't have, do we have it?
I'll make a brief discussion after he's done.
Okay,
Take 5 minutes.
you got it.
I would give him 5 minutes. 4.
Do you, Lee, do you mind letting this gentleman,
Go right ahead. Thank you for letting me lead.
so state your name for the record, please?
Michael Loney, I live at 861 Pine Street.
Okay, we've had back and forth about the drainage coming out to
Pine Street.
Pine. We've had all kinds of engineering reviews,
I
highway.
had a new set of plans the other day.
Okay,
Town
excellent.
representatives came out.
I take it this is your son?
Yes.
I saw him getting in his, in the vehicle, or getting out of the vehicle the other day. How you doing? What's your name? Kevin. Very good.
Part of the issues have to deal with him.
Okay, so,
Do we have a plan to look at, or do I go with the old ones that I have?
nope, Bob has an update.
Yeah, so I told you when they were coming back in front of us, I was gonna let you know. You were gonna come to the meeting just to have a quick discussion. I did see Mr. Looney, I visited his house last week.
Yeah.
We do have some plans, preliminary plans from Mr. Gallagher, who's designing a 12-inch drainage pipe that's gonna go down the road from Mr. Looney's secondary entrance to the subdivision.
The side
Mr.
street
Looney's
next to
house.
me, correct?
And it's gonna go down adjacent to the sewer line. So there will be a drainage line, a sewer line, and a water line. I've talked to several other neighbors over the last couple of weeks, so they're aware of what's gonna happen. The developer has 2 foundations going, so he's gonna need to get that work done rather quickly. However, I don't have a schedule yet, so I told Michael that I would share him the schedule as soon as I found out when they were gonna get started on the work. In the meantime, he told me he was gonna come to the meetings just to see if there was gonna be any more discussion on it. We don't have a presentation tonight because we're not at that point. But the wheels are spinning. The approvals from the highway superintendent have been made, and the sewer department's finalizing their plans as we speak.
Okay, so, we've discussed that on a few different occasions, and like I even told you when we were talking, one time I had to be excused, you and I was sitting together for
Yeah,
quite,
on my shoes.
for quite some time, and I even told you to tie your shoes so you don't trip and
Yes.
fall and sue the town going down the stairs, but,
Well, I know the town
so,
attorney.
you have,
Okay.
and I told you, you have our word, I mean, everybody knew and knows that there's a problem. They all agreed they're working to fix it. We want to do it right, and I think what Mr. Iafredi just said, I think we're going in the right direction. They can't install anything unless they come back to us with the plan,
Who's they?
the developers.
The developer's not the contractor. The developer has to come to you with approved plans, or the stamped plans from Frank Gallagher,
Correct.
submits it to the board.
Correct.
You guys approve it, goes back to the owner, and then the owner issues the contract to the contractor.
Just like the original approval.
How long is it gonna take?
You're asking for stuff that it's out of our control. They want to build, it has to get done. So that's our control. That's the only control we have. The water situation that you have has been there. It's been there for a long time. They're going to make the water problem better, and they're going to, I think, eliminate your water problem and the water problem down the road. I've been there several times.
So was he the last week?
We have highway working on it, we have the engineer working on it, and at our last meeting, when the highway superintendent was here, he even said that they can use the plastic pipe in order to work things out, and
So, I believe the highway department is actually gonna supply some of the material. They're gonna work in conjunction with the developer to get this drainage issue solved. What Michael Looney was concerned about, Mr. Looney was concerned about, is whether or not he could have a direct connection to that pipe, well, as it goes by his house, if he can tie in. We're working on that. I know there's gonna be a drainage pipe that's gonna take the water off the subdivision. That water actually flows to his property right now. As far as draining the properties as it goes by, Mr. Buckley said he's gonna do whatever he can to solve as many problems while they're in the road. But there's no other plans to show. You have some old plans with you.
Yeah.
Those are probably gonna be changed now that they're doing a drainage pipe. It's a little bit different. And the concern was that there's no schedule, and I can understand, I can appreciate your concern, but the fact that they're working on two homes, and they probably have them sold, so that it's probably gonna be done sooner than later, only because now they get some incentive to bring the utilities to these two houses. They're not gonna wanna build two houses and sit on them for a year. They're
Well,
gonna wanna move.
right, and they're gonna do it all together, so they haven't even started the water, haven't started the sewer.
They haven't started drainage.
Okay, so all of that.
And they haven't started putting out the mosquitoes. I go up there every day, he's
Yeah.
smacking mosquitoes over there.
Those
There's standing
mosquitoes,
water there right now.
were there long before.
Right, but now that when they built the road up behind it, you dam the water up on the other side, the water stands up there a little bit. The wheels are in motion. I don't know what motion they're going into,
All right.
because they're not going anywhere down my street.
Okay, so I gave you our update, that's what we have, and
And I got an
soon,
idea about
we're not
where the
we're
water
not gonna
goes.
we're not gonna take any ideas at this meeting. I let Bob inform you of where we are. This board's committed to make sure it's done. There's nothing in front of us tonight, so you will be notified when it's on the agenda.
Let me ask you this, it's the same contract, it's the same
No.
owner, it's just,
Nobody's changed.
nobody's changed?
As far as I know. I
GB
don't-
Sons is still the contractor of record. They're the ones back filling the foundations, getting ready to go. We both know those houses aren't gonna be turnkey for 9 months.
All right, we got a busy night, so, we've answered all your questions. Maybe we haven't given you the answers that you're looking for at this time, because we don't have all the specifics. I told you that last time, as stuff comes in front of us, Bob has firsthand, he knows what's going on, this isn't gonna be overlooked, it's not gonna be overlooked, so,
Now, my understanding is, if I'm correct, you're gonna put the sewer in first, because that's going the deepest? And then you told me that they're gonna cheat the spacing between the drainage and the water to get it away from the utility poles?
listen, we don't have a plan in front of us. When I have the engineer in front of us, and I have highway here, and everybody's on the agreements, that's when we're gonna discuss
Just.
what
Well,
we,
he gave me the plans, that's all.
If you have some ideas, I'm glad to sit with you. Maybe we can get the highway superintendent to sit with us, and you can,
I just wanna shift a little bit, I think it works out better. I'm not gonna
no, I understand, but we don't, but
change
right
things
now, we
around
don't,
too much.
but there's nothing that the four of us can do or say.
I'm only going by the plans that he showed me the other day. I know they're not stamped and approved. Most of them I agree with, but some of them I think could be shifted and would work out for the better for me and both my
And I
neighbors.
suggest, just like they did before, when Mr. Gallagher is working on the plans, the highway department's working on the plans, you had the meeting with all of them out there that this board said that you were gonna have. I'm sure they're gonna do it again when they get further ahead and have actual, plans that they feel comfortable with. It's up to the highway and the engineer on the project, and they're gonna present it to us, so.
So let me ask you, whose hands is it in right now? The highway department, the sewer department?
The applicants. It's in the applicant's hands. We told the applicant that we were concerned of the drainage problem. He took it back, and it's in his hands. He's dealing with Bob, he's dealing with,
And then
Highway
Bob takes
super-
it to the highway department?
no, he's dealing with highway superintendent, and
That's what I just said.
Bob's not taking the highway superintendent.
No.
The applicant it's his responsibility to put it all together. So,
And we have no timetable.
no. All right?
No, not all right.
When do they talk to the highway department? When is everyone gonna sit down? You said you're gonna have a meeting with them. When would that be? Cause I want in there, cause we've lived at this house for 20 years. We've had to deal with my physical issues for several years now. Like, their ideas might work good on paper for them, but in real life, when you have to live like this, changes everything. So, again.
Oh, we totally understand, and we're not pushing anything off. It's a problem in I guess, the biggest thing here, it's a situation that has been there for years, long before this developer. So, yes, maybe by building that road up a little bit, maybe it created additional water, but it always, I read minutes to meetings that we had from the beginning. The guy replaced his driveway next door 3 times. You've, in the minutes of the meetings, have said you have gone through pumps and pumps and pumps in your basement because you had so much water in your basement. We know it's a wet area. The applicant has agreed to address it. They're working on it. And we are not going to let them dig the road without pre-approval, so you know that, okay, the road is going to be dug. We don't want to stop the road, block the road off so you can't get access to medical treatment or whatever you need. And I know you mentioned that before, and they already know that. There's not a backhoe on there. I drive there at least twice a week. There's an excavator sitting there. They have 2 footings there. I'm surprised that it's gone this far, but I'm sure they want to make sure that when they start digging, I'm sure they have to make sure it's right.
All right, the next time you drive by and you see the excavator, you make sure you look at that 4-foot trench that goes right to my property that drains the water. It's been that way for about 8 months now. That's where all the water comes in, comes onto my property, goes into my basement. It's been that way for 8 months. Nobody has done nothing. Gilbody complained, GB Sons come over there, opened up a 4-foot trench. Mr. Bob has seen it. It's been that way all this time. If they put a 6-inch pipe, ran it over to my 6-inch pipe, would drain that water and it would go underneath my driveway and off it goes.
Okay,
But-
so we'll notify them, and we'll just ask them for an update for our next meeting. And we'll see what we have, so we can have some information.
Okay, Bob, could you please let us know when the meeting is, because he's been doing this for all my life. He's been multi-million-dollar jobs. He just done this for buildings, schools, museums, bridges, everything, so.
I just know water runs downhill.
Yeah, no,
And I'm downhill.
Yep, we've gone over that, so
He's been out there, sir.
Keep your phone.
He's been out there several times. You've seen standing water. Right now, we're smacking mosquitoes up there big time because this is a time of year. You get that 1/2 inch of muck out there, and it can be taken care of with a little bit of effort. I don't see the wheels turning.
Okay.
I hear them cranking, but I don't
Well,
see.
the wheels aren't going to turn on the site until they turn on paper and present it to us, so. But we'll send them another notice, and we'll ask how the engineer is making out.
And that would be Mr. Frank Gallagher.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Thank you for coming in. Okay. Raynham Preserve. You were, your engineer asked for a continuance for our last meeting,
Yes.
and we granted that to tonight.
Yes.
And you have, what are you looking for tonight?
I'm not sure. I don't have anything from an engineering perspective to present. When we last met, Lee Castiglietti, representing both the owner and Long-Built Homes, and the applicant. There was an issue about the title of those adjoining lots that had gotten variances years ago. I gave
Yeah,
you
you provided all,
Yeah,
you
I
gave
gave
me
the
all that
title work on
information, a ton of
And then-
information, and like I told you last time,
And-
after all of the research, this has gone through 3 engineer firms. It's gone through, or maybe even 4, it's gone through 3 developers. The developers came in for the original first phase, and not saying that they lied to the planning board, but they told the planning board that they were going to purchase the property next door, which after this guy went out of business, then this guy went out of business, and so there was never a cul-de-sac
Never
put
came-
in.
never came to
So that's how
fruition.
all of those 3 lots
Yeah.
were
Ended up
left,
getting created
because
subsequently.
what the planning board was told
Right.
was, okay, we're in the process of buying this, our cul-de-sac shows on a plan, but it's not our
Right.
land. So, that's all behind,
Yeah.
like I told you before.
Yeah.
What is not
So-
behind us is.
So that's what we left, and then, so the
What-
last
All right,
issue.
well, let me finish. What's not behind us, I said it 20 years ago, 18 years ago. If a member on the board is not present when when the planning board meets, then that member does not have the right to come and ask, to speak, or to address everything all over again. We've kind of a common thing. I brought up the last time, I was not here when your plan was approved. Your cluster development plan was approved. And I will respect the board's decision. I'm just not confident that you filled the board in, and I'm not confident that the board knew of prior plans that we approved that
They
only
were-
show,
They were present at all those meetings.
oh, they were present, but, trust me, Nick Harris has been in front of us for quite some time. In July 21st, 2016, Bayberry Road Extension, developer Nick Harris, Lee Casanetti, Long Built Homes, Scott Henderson, appeared before the board, discussed subdivision plans. Mr. Casanetti explained, last meeting, it was agreed by the board that this subdivision plan would be treated as a grandfathered plan with a looped road exceeding the length of the dead end. The only reason why we let this dead end exceed 1,350 square feet was because it was a plan previously approved, and we've gone through it and researched it. Okay, so we've all agreed that the dead end of 1,350 feet. Okay, so that's off the table. Mr. Andrade asked if all the bounds are correct. Mr. Harris stated, no additional property is added, and the property is shown as it was. Mr. Fountain asked if the lot areas are the same as the areas shown on the old plan. Mr. Henderson stated yes. Mr. Fountain asked, what is the difference with this plan? Mr. Henderson explained, the road layout had changed because of wetlands, makes it infeasible to build the road as shown on the old plans. And Mr. Harris is trying to create a new road that is no longer the old yield plan of 21 lots. Okay? Lots that are compliant with drainage, lot providing as well. Drainage, lot with lot for drainage as well. 9 lots have been lost from the old plan, blah, blah. It was noted, Concom permits will be needed for those 21 lots. July 2017, this is the last known approval that we've given, July 2017. Bayberry Hill Road Extension.
Can I interject, just to correct that? The last approval you gave was in 2018. The preliminary subdivision plan was approved in 2018.
2018, and that was the one that you're currently showing.
Correct.
Okay, so that was approved in 2018, showing 28 lots.
24.
24 plus,
At which time Frank Gallagher got up and spoke on behalf of his sister and indicated that we were obligated to provide him with access. At which time Burke suggested to him that he make some sort of an arrangement with us rather than go through a contentious or even litigious type of situation regarding the 4 lots, which we in fact went out and did. and added the 4 lots, came back and showed both a conventional and a conceptual plan with their land included for the 28 lots, which was approved by this
Okay.
board.
So in July 20...
Which, by
July
the way, is
20th
why we've proceeded with the engineering
Okay,
and
so
come to
July
this point.
20th, 2017. Then this was here, it went from 21 lots down to 20 lots in 17. So we've gone all the way back to, I think, 14. We've gone for 4 years, back and forth. So now, in 2017, you had 20 lots. So now, your by right plan, you are saying that you had 24 lots that we approved.
Correct.
So, and that was dated, this doesn't have a date on it. That was dated, or when did you say? It was in,
Well, the actual
So we have-
preliminary subdivision plan was dated
20, well, here's a plan that I have
It was
showing
March.
wetlands,
It was submitted, the application was submitted in March.
20 lots. This is the one that was in 2017.
The actual subdivision plan, preliminary subdivision plan, was dated February of 2018. And it was submitted in March.
Okay, so,
This is a plan that's approved by the board. That was conventional. The same night, we also submitted, and I have a copy. We also included the conceptual plan for the was actually included with the filing as well. We presented the cluster plan so that we could get direction from the board, and at that time, the board approved the yield of 24 and indicated that they would prefer that we proceed with the cluster development.
Hold on, Lloyd.
All right, go ahead. I'll have to find it. I can find it.
okay, so you have plan that I'm looking at right here shows 20 lots. And these, and
That's got nothing to do with this. This is the formal filing. That was just a discussion planned by somebody else. This is our formal filing that was approved for 24 lots
okay,
by the
so,
board. And as Evan Watson explained last time, that it was really simply a poor evaluation by Henderson, but as you mentioned, that was Mr. Harris's hire, and we all know that Mr. Harris had a history of working on a shoestring and not
Okay, so-
necessarily getting the best advice and the best direction necessary.
so I'm gonna have to go from that plan to everything that I have, and I'll have to look at the minutes.
So you had 20, and then you made a deal with an abutter and got 4.
No, we had 24 on
He's
this
saying that he
plan.
had 24.
This is the additional land, and I have the plans on that as well. Would you like to see that? That was when, we had this plan, and that was when Frank came forward that night, Frank Gallagher, and indicated that we had to provide him with some form of access through here to this land. And you had said to him, rather than
Try to
you know,
make a deal.
try to make a deal, rather than get
Yeah.
into a fight with them or whatever else, try to make a deal, and we in fact
And
did.
there is,
And then we
and there is no
incorporated-
question, the design that you presented is so much better, including this piece.
You stated that.
No,
today,
no question.
Right.
There's no question.
Which is why we.
The question is,
Proceeded.
we have to find out how we got from 20 to 24. So we're using the same land, the same wetland lines, so that's all.
Correct.
I have that information. I didn't have the 2018. That was everything that I've had. I will take a look at this, and I will give you I will let the board know my feeling on how we got from 20 to 24 using the same piece of property. Just because we used a different engineer, I don't necessarily buy that, but I give you the benefit of the doubt, and I will make sure that we have, we have an answer. I'll let everybody know.
Okay.
The other concern that I mentioned last time too was if,
Do you have this plan? You have this preliminary plan, the filing, right?
What about the fire plans?
no, the one he gave me right here,
I can tell you about,
February 27, 2018.
I'd have to look before I answer that.
No, I know, but can you just write down the date?
You can keep that set. I'll replace it.
Okay. February 27th, 2018. I would like to find it only because I'm going to have to find the minutes to that meeting. So besides the number of lots, the only other concern that I had,
That wasn't the meeting was April 5th. 2018 minutes.
no, I gotta go, I gotta sit down.
All right, if
We-
you wanted to, I just.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, but, so, the other thing that I had mentioned was about having the elevations and having a grade plan. I think it's important on cluster developments that we get a grade plan. It's in our bylaws. I think we need one in order to decide how many lots are going to be allowed for a cluster. Is 20,000 square feet enough for,
The particular parcel of land.
for the particular parcel of land? I mentioned last time, maybe it's, maybe we need to go to 30,000 square feet on some pieces. And again, that was, I mentioned it, it's no secret. I drive by and I see, we have like 6 or 7 feet of fill in some lots. It just, on a 20,000 square feet, I don't think that works for the drainage, for the runoff on the properties. So,
I disagree. It's.
I understand.
Works quite well, actually. If all the ponds, if you drive by the ponds, they function exactly as they're designed. They're dry all the time, and there's no gathered water anywhere in the streets, and that's with not all the catch basins even being open presently.
I know.
So the drainage is working perfectly as designed. Regardless of what you think of the topography on the lots, you may have a problem with that aesthetically, but it's not affecting the drainage. So wherever your contentious outlook is toward it, it needs to be properly directed, and it's not drainage. The drainage is working properly.
Okay, well, I guess when the highway department says that driveway drainage is not to enter the town road, how does that work?
The driveway drainage is not to
Yeah,
enter the town road?
Yeah, we have some house lots that he's making, I think even you had to do over on Locust Street. You had to put a trench drain in front of, at the end of the driveway to catch the water runoff.
How do you get a driveway to not drain into a road? You want it to drain into the house? I've never heard of anything so preposterous in my life, Dan.
No?
No.
Well, I'll have to.
Where does
I'll have to check.
where does your driveway go? The street is designed, if you have a street like Locust Street that has no drainage,
Yep.
then you have to account for the drainage you create with a new house lot. That's what that bylaw is for. If you have a subdivision that has catch basins in it that's designed to take that runoff from those lots, that's how it works. That's what those catch basins do.
Okay, so maybe I missaid. So the lots on Locust Street where they don't have catch basins,
There's no drainage on Locust Street.
no, I understand that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So those
So
lots.
you have to provide for it
So you're
individually.
So you're
Correct.
providing for drainage on that. So
Yeah.
all of your lots on Bassett, no.
Raynham Preserve, Bassett
Raynham
Mill,
Preserve.
whatever.
So all of those lots, all of the elevations, your current elevations are all calculated into your,
Correct,
okay.
correct.
All right, so I'll look at that, and I think each piece of property has to be looked at, and we have to decide, is 5-6 feet of fill, is that what we want for a cluster development with 20,000 square feet? I guess is what we're going to have to look at. So, looking back at Bassett Knoll, did we get grading plans when the approval? I don't know. I'll have to look. Yeah, I'll have to look back at that. All right, so those are our concerns.
I think the plan included layout sheets and grading.
I'll take a look at that.
Yep.
And
I don't
over there,
think
we're looking for
I'd like to interject something there, though. At the time those plans were done, Bob was not the building commissioner, and I don't know that there was any particular ruling as to the elevation at which the foundation could be set, and I don't believe that those foundations took into account being set at 1 foot above, with the slab being set 1 foot above the water table. So the plan, whatever you see on that plan, it's not going to conform to what's in the field, because the conditions under which we built the regulations that were imposed were different than what was conceptually
Right,
used for
so-
design criteria.
So your elevations are higher than what?
They are,
Okay.
there's no question. They're
So
higher.
if the calculations of the original plans for all the drainage, so if we redo the calculations, is it going to change, perhaps?
Slightly, but not very much.
All right, well, I'll take a look at that anyway. And again, we're going to be reviewing all of our bylaws, only because it's time. And on the preserve, the other thing that you were looking for that wasn't in our rules and regs was the wet basin, which we talked about last time. That's something
Correct.
totally new. Ed Buckley
Yeah.
gave us a letter stating that he wasn't supporting it, or, he wanted to make it known that he was not, he needed more information on maintenance and that type of thing, I think was in his letter. We talked about having bat cages and different bird species and to, work to eliminate mosquitoes, which is something that I think why the town did away with wet basins in the beginning, was probably, the mosquito problem.
I think you'll find, and Evan can speak on this more fully than I can, but the wet basin, if you're talking about a shallow water collection on an extended basis, that actually is a breeding ground for mosquitoes. A deeper water, which is what we've proposed, a deeper water basin functions like a pond, and it becomes part of an ecosystem.
Correct.
And you have wildlife that lives in it and lives off of it, and they live off of mosquito larvae, and you don't get, there's not a breeding ground for mosquitoes. So I think it's also one of the reasons why DEP has implemented in their regulations the
Yeah,
recommended
I think
use
I gave him
of wet ponds.
I gave him a picture of what I saw, where they showed the bottom has deeper
Yeah.
areas, and it's not a level,
Right.
A level detention pond.
Right.
So, those are the, basically, those are the only things that
Yeah.
we still have, when you present it. But I will look at that, the minutes for those meetings, and then I'll let the board know, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
So you are on,
what you asked me to present to you the last time, I wasn't at the last hearing before that, regarding the curbing in Raynham Preserve.
yeah. Thank you.
So Ed has indicated that similar to what was done on White Street, that rather than use the slope granite curbing, which had been the waiver that was approved for the development, that he would rather have the vertical granite curbing on the sidewalk side of the street and Cape Cod berm on the non-sidewalk side of the street. So we've provided modified cross-sections to reflect what he's asked for, what he's asked us to do. And with
Have you
your
given
permission.
Ed a copy of that?
Not yet, no. I actually just got that today.
Okay. If it's,
But we've gone over the specifics of what
right.
what we've discussed is exactly what's shown on this.
Yeah, okay.
I'm certainly happy, I won't do anything without sharing it with him, certainly, and getting his approval, but this is done specifically at his direction, so it is reflective of exactly what he asked for.
That's exactly what he's asking for.
Yeah, no, I saw his comments for the last meeting, and he would rather give the Cape Cod berm than having the sloped granite, because the sloped granite, the size of it.
He doesn't like slope granite.
He doesn't. The size of it has to be another 8 inches or 10 inches longer, and if you're gonna do that, you might as well just do the vertical. And over at Bassano, I think with the vertical being on the sidewalk side, it's a large subdivision, a lot of kids' bicycles. I think I think I said it last time also, that I think it's safer. I don't have a problem. Ed's more comfortable with it. Ed likes it better. And all I would ask is that we give Ed a copy of this. And he doesn't have to go into a big, full report. If he can just, this is being asked as a minor modification?
It's being asked as a modification of the waiver that was previously granted,
Okay,
to modify that waiver from slope granite curbing to this.
Yeah. Okay. So if you could just ask, now again, as long as, I think, so he understands, we all agree with this, providing Ed.
Ed approves it, good by me.
So I don't want to stop you 2 more weeks from doing curbing.
Yeah.
We want you to keep going and get that thing done.
Right.
It's phase 1, because,
We're trying to pay that this summer. That's
Exactly.
exactly what this,
so,
I do have a question.
this came up in
Yes.
conjunction with that. That was
Isn't Bassano a 40-foot right away?
50.
Sure.
It was, it was laid out for the sidewalks on both sides.
Do you physically have the 5-foot grass area before you put the?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you go through, you'll see on the non-sidewalk side of the street, you'll notice that the electric boxes are considerably off the street, and that's because it was accounted for to be 10 feet. So, it looks like they're further in off the street than they normally would be if the electric had been designed knowing there wasn't going to be a sidewalk there, which it was not. But if it had been designed that way, those boxes would have been closer to the street. So if you drive through and you look at those boxes, you'll see that it was.
all right, so as long as Ed, and if the board is agreeable, I'll call Ed in the morning. And he's not in tomorrow. So Monday morning,
sure.
whatever, I'll text him and he'll send me back a text. So I know that's what he said.
Yep.
You have the board's verbal, so you can keep moving.
Yep.
But at our next meeting on the 20th, if you put this in a form that you're asking, unless this does say that.
It does.
Okay, so we'll bring this up on June 20th.
Yep.
Along with continuing Raynham Preserve. And if there's any additional information that I find, I will let the board know about these 24 to 21 lots. And I'll also have Maureen send you what I'm sending the rest of them, so you'll
Sure.
have information. Is that
Great.
agreeable?
Yes.
All right. So we're gonna continue you until June 20th, and we're gonna put you on at 6:30.
In the interim, if you could internally, whether it's with discussion with Ed or among yourselves or both, we had discussed with him, because of this change, how it would affect the cul-de-sac. So he said, that's really up to the planning board, not up to me. One of the things that is obviously, to me at least, it's somewhat obvious and glaring, is that when you have sidewalk on both sides of the street, as was originally drawn on the subdivision plan, you'd bring it, and it shows it that way, you'd bring the sidewalk all the way around the cul-de-sac, and it comes up to the sidewalk on the other side. A sidewalk in a cul-de-sac that goes nowhere is entirely nonsensical.
We've always done sidewalks around the cul-de-sac and stop it at the other side, because it's easier for somebody to cross that one section than it is. So our sidewalk, and it should be on the plan, no?
No, the sidewalks on both sides, so they do go around
Oh,
the
okay.
cul-de-sac. What I'm saying is, I've never built a sidewalk and a cul-de-sac on one side of the street that goes nowhere. Nobody in his right mind would walk down a sidewalk on a straight run of a road, get to a cul-de-sac, and in order to get to the other side of the cul-de-sac, walk around the entire cul-de-sac
But
on a
that's not what the
sidewalk.
sidewalk's for. The sidewalk's for the person that's living on the cul-de-sac to walk down their driveway, go on the sidewalk and continue walking.
So what do the people do that don't live on a cul-de-sac, that don't have a sidewalk on their side? They walk across the street.
They walk across the street.
So why wouldn't somebody on a cul-de-sac do that?
So I may be a misunderstanding. You're asking for not to do a sidewalk on the cul-de-sac?
Correct.
Okay, well,
The
I believe that our subdivisions that, I mean, we've given waivers.
I mean, listen, I'll build it.
We've given waivers on one sidewalk all throughout the town of Raynham.
Yeah.
And I don't believe, I believe that the sidewalk has gone around the cul-de-sac, but I can check on that also and see. I don't want to make you do a sidewalk.
It's laid out, I'll build it. That's not the issue. The issue is, it's just, to me, it's nonsensical. I've never seen anybody walk on a sidewalk
He
and...
liked it that way. Nonsensical or not, that's what he wanted.
Is that-
That's what he got.
Sidewalks going around. Yep. So I'll ask Ed and talk to Bob about it. We'll look at what
Yeah.
we've done in the past and,
Okay.
and hopefully that's, as
Yeah, and
we-
I just bring that up because we mentioned it to Ed, and he said that's really not a decision for me to make. He
Yeah,
said you
all
got
right.
to discuss with the planning board. So,
Like I said, we
yeah,
are,
if you-
we are gonna be reviewing our rules and regs, and we don't
Yeah.
wanna do, obviously, we wanna try to make our rules and regs, what's in the best interest for the town and the residents of the town, and what's gonna work, and we don't
Yeah.
wanna just waste money, so. But we'll look at that,
Yeah.
so we'll give
Okay.
you, those couple of 3 answers.
Great.
All right? And
Okay.
we're gonna continue you until 6:30 on the 20th.
Terrific. Thanks very much.
All right,
Appreciate it.
thank you. June 20th.
Next up, we have Raynham Riverwalk Adult Retirement Community, and we have a letter from Attorney Ryan Prophet. On behalf of the applicant, I hereby respectfully request the planning board continue the hearing currently scheduled for June 6 to June 20. The applicant submitted its application variance, and they're waiting for that to be heard on June 12. So the request that this hearing be continued to June 20th. Time to act.
July 18th.
Okay. I make a motion, we continue this hearing till June 6, 2019 at
June 20th.
June 20th? Yes, June 20th. At, what do we have for a time?
6:35, so.
6:35.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
I abstain.
What time, Denver?
6:35.
6:35.
Okay, so we have invoices we sent down. John, did you get those invoices down? Minutes we did, correspondence.
With the T-scape logo on it.
Oh, yeah.
Says you can't
Hey,
just-
McCash, a few photos, site plan, noting 4 and 4.5 inch tree diameters. So their site plan has 4.5 inch, and they're saying that that's what our specs say. And I've always thought ours were 2.5 inch. To get a 4.5 inch diameter tree is huge.
Tough to find.
It's huge. I mean, that's over a 3-foot ball on the bottom. I've never, we've always done 2.5 inches, or 2.5 to 3 inches. So if that's what's in our regs, I'm just surprised that it's come up now, because we've approved so many subdivisions with trees.
We always waver down an inch or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been,
2.5 inch tree is a good sized tree.
2.5 is a,
Anything bigger than that, you have a hard time actually rooting in, and then you die a lot.
just maintaining it, just, So, we would like to waive, a waiver approval instead, plant 3.5 trunk trees instead. I mean, that's far, if they're proposing 3.5 inch trees, I would make a motion that we, accept their request,
As a minor modification.
as a minor modification to the CVS, project.
I'll second that.
Second, for discussion, it says the approved plan has over 380 individual plants, evergreen trees. So, motion was made and seconded to allow 3.5 inch trees. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You can let them know, Maureen.
I will.
Refund, Carroll Drive. Hello, Maureen, I'd like to request the $4,000 that I had placed on parcel 1643 for Carroll Drive be refunded to me. Refresh my memory, what's Carroll Drive? Certificate of action,
It was one lot, if I remember right.
Sullivan Mellow, Carroll Drive. So he's asking, please let me know if there's anything else to refund.
That's the $4,000 in the project review account, that's what's left. It was never reviewed by Nitch, there's still $4,000 there.
Okay.
What was this, like a single lot subdivision or something?
Carroll
Four in
Drive
favor.
runs off Leonard Street.
Well,
That
I see
helps it all.
I see a certificate of action. Holy cow, no wonder, this is Cal Carlson, the clerk.
Yeah.
This is way back, no wonder it's not familiar. Okay, so,
Well, I presume that years and years ago,
Uh,
they did the work and they got an occupancy permit.
No, it's never been built on.
Oh,
so that's why he's asking for the full amount. No monies have been spent, obviously, there's no open accounts.
Well, there's the project review account.
No, his money, there's an open account for that, but there's no open bills.
No.
It's not an open project, so
No,
then,
I don't know if they ever recorded the plan or anything, I don't know how far it got.
then make a motion to release the $4,000 in the account for Carroll Drive, providing all bills are current and paid.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
should we do anything about the certificate of action that's out there?
Well, if the certificate of action is dated 2003.
Wow.
And if it's, they only had 6 months to have this recorded, but we
Do
don't,
we have to give them interest on that?
town clerk stamped it.
No, now we do, this is too old. We didn't do
I guess it's okay to just.
Yeah, 2003, so long ago, I'm sure.
that. So, we don't need any proof of recording
no.
or anything? Okay.
So a motion was made, do I hear a second?
Yeah, I did.
I'm sorry, seconded, all in favor to release it?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous?
I'll have to look for that road next time I go down there.
Set summer schedule. I think if,
July 4th
Is our normal meeting date.
is our normal meeting date, so I think we'll have that off.
so July 4th,
Yep.
we'll take off the rest of it. If somebody has planned vacations, don't feel bad that you have to take time off. We've done it in the past that instead of us setting a schedule, if people have specific
Yeah, makes
times
sense.
or
So we'll have a meeting, what, July 18th?
Yeah, that's the next one after.
So, all in favor of July 4th off? Aye. Planning,
You laughing about it?
planning coordinator update?
Update us, will you? By the way, I was the one who sent the reporter to you on Harbor Freight. She called me, wanted me to give her the status on Harbor Freight. I said, call Bob.
Call me on Saturday morning.
Did she?
Jeez. Cumberland Farms is moving forward with their proposal to redevelop the China Garden property. I got a phone call from their engineer. They've designed the property to be developed in the boundary lines of the existing business zone. Next Wednesday morning, on the 12th at 10 o'clock, we're going to have a pre-submission meeting here for all the department heads to view the plan and make their preliminary comments. I would imagine soon after that meeting, you'll have, it'll be submitted to the planning board to put on their summer schedule for site plan review. CVS. CVS is now all of a sudden on a very fast-paced schedule. They were going to want to merchandise probably by July 1st and maybe have an occupancy permit by the middle of July. So I'll be staying in contact with Nietzsche once the asphalt is down and the engineers submitted a final as-built plan.
What was their original schedule, you know?
All I know is they're behind schedule because they had the winter and they had that collapse, so they're behind schedule.
Because the pharmacists have been talking about being in there in July for months now. That was their inside track
Yeah, I would
to it.
imagine end of July, so within, 6 weeks or so.
Yeah.
We talked about Michael Looney and Pine Street drainage. I will try to stay on top of that as best I can, but we're at the mercy of the engineer to finalize his design and come in and get any approvals. I know that Mr. Buckley is trying to work with it also.
With that said, can we officially, again, ask for them to give us an update on the June 20th meeting, at the June 20th meeting?
You want them in here to update you?
I want either the engineer or somebody to,
Okay.
and I would also, we have a few things for Mr. Buckley. I would also ask that you send him an email and just ask him for any update that he may have,
Okay.
because I'm sure on the 20th, Mr. Looney will be in to look for some more information that we hopefully will have.
Well, I don't mind sharing it with him when I get it at a time. That might,
No, I know, but it just leaves us not knowing what's going on if the information's out there. I'd rather us have something so we can tell him legitimately.
They started the sidewalks and the final work over Christina's Path, so that's going to be completed here in the next couple of weeks, too. I have a question. Last month when Harbor Freight came in and we decided they didn't need site plan approval, I'm sorry I didn't take adequate notes that night. If you remember what the plan looked like, they brought in this picture and they showed us. The board made some recommendations. I know one recommendation was bollards. So all they have done is put bollards in front of the entrance, and I told them that it was my impression that the board wanted bollards all the way along the building where there's parking adjacent to the building. Am I correct?
Yes.
And I would suggest that we, Maureen, maybe we can get the minutes of that meeting,
Okay.
and you can,
Because apparently that never made it onto any plan, and the site contractor doesn't have it on a plan, so I'm trying to direct him. I just want to make sure that the board asked for that before I asked for it.
I know we did.
We never would have done just in front of the door.
But if we could if you could send those minutes
Okay, let's get it to you.
Excuse me.
And if everybody wants a copy, if not, I'll just get a copy and Bob can get a copy and just so we can direct it, but
Yeah, they were very accommodating that night. I think a few things that we asked for, so they would implement, but I just wanted to direct the contract.
Yep.
The last thing is, I haven't been directed yet by the Board of Selectmen. However, the money has been appropriated to start the master plan. And it's been, I've been talking to Grant King at Serpent. He's very interested in doing it. I'm not sure how we're going to award the contract, but I will keep you informed as to when that gets started. And we're going to try to maybe ask him to help us with our rules and regs at the same time, make it part of the same process so we can have some professional help in getting that updated.
now at our last meeting, you weren't here. I did ask for Steve Ventresca from Niche Engineering to be present, and I believe that's on our June 20th.
Yes.
Yes.
We've always had our review engineer here on subdivisions and what have you, and over the past few years, things have gotten slow, and but I think going forward, again, tonight, it probably would have been a good idea if they were here on Carol Meisner's. They're getting paid, they're there to help us. And I just think it's even, the applicant spending the money for their review, it's good for them to be in front of us to tell us and to help us try to, figure out when we have an issue. So I'm looking more in favor of having our review engineer start coming to these meetings when we have public hearings on plans, like we did in the past. It worked out fine, especially when some of our members don't like the review letter to say, I'm good with that. So if he's not,
Recommending it.
so if he can't say he recommends it, then I want him to sit here and tell me so we can all be directed.
Now, will the applicant pay for his presence here?
Oh, yeah.
Because they're going to
It's
charge us.
it's part of the review package. And it's all, we've always had it in the past, they've always been here, and then it's,
Okay.
kind of makes
Sounds
things
good.
sometimes go a little quicker, too.
Makes sense.
So we do have him on for the 20th.
Serpent review?
Yeah.
I'll give you a quick one. The meeting was at the fireside. It was the annual meeting and dinner. Bob attended with me this year. And I guess he met a lot of old friends, people he worked with. The presentation was by Fire Chief Michael Wynn. He's the chief of the Centerville, Osterville, Marsden Mills Fire Department in Barnstable. And he's also a current member of the Southeast Massachusetts Regional Homeland Security Council. And I guess he plans a lot of these training things where they go into a school, they take over a school and pretend that there's a hostage crisis and so forth. And he's really into this stuff. Well, it was a very interesting talk that he gave. It was a good night overall, and that night is typically, we hear a speaker, we do a quick meeting before all that, but it's pretty much a social event to meet talk with all the other towns and share ideas. That's why I had asked Bob if he wanted to attend. You meet with other town planners and building superintendents, and I think it was a pretty fruitful night for all of us. You agree?
Yeah, it was a good night. Very good.
That was about it.
Okay, we have Bassett Knoll Estates preliminary plan account, Donald E. Shute, trustee, $1,819.12. This is one of those accounts that we're trying to clean up. Apparently Donald Shute, I'm not sure if Chris had made a comment that he believes that he's deceased.
I believe that, too.
But Mr. Shute has $1,819. So make a motion that Maureen try to find where this $1,819 can go back to Mr. Shute or his family,
Estate.
his estate somewhere. This never went forward. It's funny because in one of our minutes, Mr. Shute agreed to do 2,000, limit the houses over there at Bassett Knoll to 2,000 square feet if we approved the cluster development, which was to in the minutes, which was a interesting theory, limit the houses 2,000 square feet, that way they're not big houses using up 20,000 square feet of land. That's another thing, maybe on the grading elevations. So, make a motion that we let Maureen do what she can do to
Second.
release this funds. Second, all in favor? Aye. Now, Bayberry Road has 17,000 something dollars. Isn't it Bayberry?
Oh, the old subdivision?
Yeah.
Yes.
Has $17,000. When, reviewing all this stuff, I found that we had money still in an account. I would like to ask town council, do we have to call the bond in order to get that $17,000? Or how do we get that $17,000?
Whose money would it be? Was it Federal?
I think it was already called. Wasn't it already called? That's why it's in the town's name.
Oh,
I'll look at filing.
okay, was it already called?
Because they've looked at spending it before. It's never been enough.
You know what, you're right, because when I was doing when I read those minutes, I think Henry Ellis, the night it was voted on, I think it was done, and it was after the foreclosure of, it was before Federoff.
Oh, and that's how Federal ended up with it.
That's how Federoff ended up, it was before Federoff. Because Federoff came in, and I saw in the minutes that he asked the planning board at that time for a waiver of sidewalks only on one side, because he took the project over. And at that time, planning board did that. So anyway, all right, so that's good. Then I suggest,
I'll check.
we make a motion that we let Ed Buckley from the highway superintendent know that we have whatever the exact amount is to spend over there to repair those roads, because those roads need to be repaired. They're already failing. And none of those roads are accepted by the town.
Oh, wow.
That was another,
Where is this again?
Ram's Head,
Bayberry Road.
Bayberry. None of those roads have ever been accepted by the town.
Is the town maintaining them? Or
Yes,
following
yeah, but,
Wow.
I know. I was really surprised when we were going through it, and Maureen called, who was it, Highway, I think? And she has it down as
It's
unacceptable.
not out of the ordinary, there's probably other streets, old
Oh,
streets that haven't been accepted.
Well, the old ones, yes, but a new subdivision,
Well, how new is that? It's gotta be 30 years old now.
yeah, I know, I'm new.
So that's what you consider new now, right?
Yeah, right. So, I think, putting that money, it was for there, I think the money should stay there, and I think Ed should give us start getting estimates on what he can do to utilize that money for the subdivision, to make those streets a little better, and then we'll have to figure out, we should accept them, because if Raynham Preserve is coming in, they can't get an accepted
Have a
way.
public offer private?
No, so we're gonna have to we'll have to do both.
Was that a motion? Did you start that as?
That was a motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And that way, that'll get the ball rolling with Ed. So that's for shoot.
We gotta sign this? No?
Yes, you know what? Probably would be a good idea.
Well, we haven't figured out where it's going yet.
No, but we're giving Maureen if we don't sign it, then she's,
I think she might report back to us anyway.
While we're writing.
yeah, well, I think they're all supposed to be, we don't know that the guy's passed.
The woman I asked, she can do it, but she'll do it remotely at home from watching the tapes. She can't attend the meetings. She's doing another board that night.
Last thing that I have is, we have a letter, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Maureen, Planning Board Community Development, Open Space and Recreational Plan. You may or may not be aware that Raynham's open space recreational plan recently expired. Until the OSRP is updated, Raynham is ineligible for funding through the Division of Conservation Service Grant Program. If you'd like more information, please review the Open Space and Recreational Planner Workbook online. Information, DCS Grant Program is available. Now, is this part of our master plan?
I would imagine so, I would say.
It's in the master plan, the open space. And I thought that the master plan, it says 2020. Our current master plan, that it looks until 2020. So, it's probably part of that, but.
Is that something we can approve, or is that?
No, well, yeah, I mean, it's open space. I'm sure Richard McCarthy must have done the original.
When they put the committee together for the master plan, they can address that at the same time.
Yeah, so
Or
if it's.
we can ask Serpent to address it for us, we have,
Oh, they got to do
Well,
it.
what I'll do, if it's all right with the rest of you guys, I will look this up, see what our open space, who did, when we originally did it, because I'm sure we were part of it, when we originally did it, and I'll get the information, just so we know.
Seem to remember Richard McCarthy talking about that.
Yeah, I'm sure Richard would have been something he would have done. So I'll do that, and then I'll let you know where we stand with that,
Okay.
just so we don't
Do you have plans to sign?
do something else.
No, we don't.
So, with that said, I didn't have any meetings over the last 2 weeks. I didn't have any conversations with anybody about anything, so that was good.
And I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.